4-0 indeed. I think the expected goals are slightly generous to Manchester United in that scenario as Palace pick up all 3 points. Let's just confirm what that means. Within the table, Manchester United sitting 8th. There was talk of European aspirations, weren't there, a few weeks ago. Those are pretty much dead. 3 games to go of the season. They sit level on points with Chelsea, 2 behind Newcastle. Meanwhile, Crystal Palace on the up, as I mentioned, looking good for next season. A little bit of momentum behind them as they sit 14th. Here's what some of the early editions of the papers had to say. Rotten, shrewd devils, torn to shreds. Just some of the headlines that we're seeing back in the UK.
That's shred devils?
Oh, yeah, shred devils.
That's all right.
What I say?
English is your native language, not mine.
Let's say, yeah, shrewd devils. That'd be quite interesting. That's my first day. Let's welcome in, shall we? Julianne Leron, Mario Melchior. But we've got to start with Mark Ogden, who wasn't expecting to be on today. But we know when Mark's on, things have gone really bad for Manchester United. Mark, is that... The interesting thing is we've seen these sort of performances from United before this season, but maybe they weren't as punished as much. Today they really were.
Oh, yeah, they were ripped apart and defending was terrible. The performance all round was terrible. People are saying, well, that's probably the worst since Sir Alex Ferguson left. And it's pretty bad. I mean, there have been some bad ones as well. I mean, we've seen Liverpool win 5-0 at Old Trafford, but this is Crystal Palace. This is not Liverpool. This is not Man City. And as good a team as Palace are at times, they are... Are they 14th, did you say, on the table? They sacked a manager this season and they absolutely destroyed Man United. But that was the second time they've done it this season. They've done the double over Man United, I think, for the first time in the Premier League. So there are no positives from tonight for Man United. There really aren't. I mean, I guess if you're looking for a positive, it's that it's now looking impossible for the club to keep Erik ten Hag. But, you know, who knows? I mean, they haven't got rid of him yet, so he's still there.
How can a team of international players, experienced players, put together that sort of performance that they did today over the 90 minutes?
And quite frankly, while Manchester United and maybe even Manchester United fans will say, hey, injured players, we have a lot of players missing. Okay, I'll buy that. I'll go along with that conversation. And I'll say, yeah, you have some limitations in terms of the personnel that you can put out there. But to your point, Dan, a lot of experienced players out on the field with international experience. And if indeed you're going to have experienced players out on the field, you at the very least expect competitive pride. At the very least. I'm not even talking any more expectations than that. Competitive pride. And a 3-0, 4-0, Eze stepping over the ball, Olise stepping over the ball, back heels, no look passes. They keep creating opportunities. They look like they're going to score a goal again and again and again, Crystal Palace. And nobody, and I mean nobody from Manchester United gets close to even making a challenge to say, okay, listen, we're not having any more of this. Somebody's going to get it. Somebody's going to get it. If indeed you're going to be stepping over the ball and you're going to make no-look passes and little back heels and little flick-ons, somebody's going to get it. But no, a lot of blank stares, glazed looks, nobody getting close to making a challenge, nobody getting close to the ball. Daniel Munoz just running up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down on Wan-Bissaka, having no idea whatsoever when to be able to, at the very least, affect or impact his game. And that's just one example of many examples across the field from Manchester United, that they just allow what seem to be lesser players to just carry the momentum of the game, carry the pace of the game, and actually care. Just care. And that I think right now becomes a standard for Manchester United is compete. Just give me a sign that you're competing. That team today did not compete. Crystal Palace did. They won it 4-0, and as you mentioned, could have been 6, could have been 7, and we're not exaggerating. Crystal Palace in a completely different level. Manchester United, embarrassing.
The poster child, the poster man, the poster old man, however you want to sell it, was Casemiro for the performance from United today, which kind of epitomised where it all went wrong. Mario, I know that he's old. I know he doesn't have what he had in his legs from before. But surely a man of that experience has got to use that football brain to know when to make those moves and when not to. Is this a case of him not caring or a case of him just being too past it?
I don't think it's not caring. I think it's also, if you play a player like him, and they're also exposing him, because I feel like, we all think about Casemiro, of course, what he achieved and what he delivered, you understand, coming from Madrid. But then he comes to a side of Man United that it's straight open. And you go into Palace, Palace, they have those guys up front, Olise, Mateta, Eze. The tactical side, how they were set up, they knew they were going to go at them, because if you look on the sheet and you see Casemiro and Evans playing center halves, you already know that one, their connection is not working really well, because at the first goal you saw Casemiro attacking in the middle of the park and they got through it, right? And then Evans backing up. A minute later, you see Mateta's goal, or not a minute, but a couple of minutes later, you see Mateta's goal. He knew Evans is in front of him. Everybody had that. Like me playing. When I was a younger boy and I would play with older guys, sometimes I would play against an older player that would say to me, don't think, just knock the ball past him and run. And at the moment now, that's exactly a moment when I looked at Evans, that is what Mateta did. He knew he was quicker than him, he knocked it past him, you understand, gave him a cut, gave him a kind of dropping shoulder, but not like incredibly, but he did not want to run with him, because when players sometimes get to that level, they don't want to run that long, that far away from, have that sprint battle with a player. And I think that was sad, and I think Casemiro playing with Evans, I think they have the experience, but playing together is something else. Playing at the back of Man United, everybody wants to beat you. And like, you guys already, Mark said, this is the second time, after so long. You understand, it never happened before, but now you beat them twice in one season. That must hurt.
This isn't Ten Hag's fault necessarily, is it, Jules? You take a look at, you got no Maguire, no Lindelof, no Martinez, no Luke Shaw. Nobody wants to be playing Casemiro and Johnny Evans at centre-back against anybody. So surely in this sort of case, you can give him a pass?
No. No pass. No pass. I mean, I understand the injury, and Ali mentioned all the names, and you've just mentioned Dan, all the names, and it's not easy. We've seen other teams with a lot of injuries, like Chelsea, for example, have a whole team out, for example, too. And they still try. They try something different. They try to get along. They try to compete. Like Ali said, they try to be physical. At least you try to see something in the game. We saw nothing today from a United team that made Crystal Palace look like peak Barcelona under Guardiola. Olise was Messi, Wharton and Hughes were Xavi and Busquets. It was just an embarrassment. And they've been embarrassed too many times this season. That's the thing. This is not the first time. They could hardly beat Sheffield United. They could not beat Burnley. They could not beat Coventry until they went to penalties. And today, they were just spanked again. And for me, this is one of the worst coach team in the Premier League this season, by far. I'm not really sure what Erik ten Hag, I don't even want to say his name. He's another Dutch guy. Here you go. I mean, it's just, I don't understand what they're doing. I know he will find another excuse tonight, like he always does. We talked about him on the show on Saturday night, about all his press conference and the ridiculous lines that he uses then. I mean, again, this one didn't age well for him when he said that United were the most entertaining team in the league this season, because tonight they were nothing but entertaining.
Right, let's address this Ten Hag thing. I think everyone agrees he needs to leave, but the problem is, Mark, and you've talked about it as before, is who comes in? Who do the Manchester United board want to come and fix this mess?
Yeah, it's gone beyond that now. I've heard that, well, who can replace him? Well, Man United are 8th in the Premier League. They've never been that low. They've never finished as low as that. So there's got to be somebody out there that's better than Erik ten Hag. Now, the situation is that, yes, there's a state of flux right now in the sense that Jim Ratcliffe has come in. He's got Dave Brailsford running the club right now until Omar Barada, the chief exec, comes in. And at some point, they get Dan Ashworth. Now, Jason Wilcox has arrived from Southampton as technical director. There are enough people there to work out who they want. Now, we know that until recently, Dave Brailsford was very keen on Gareth Southgate, but I've been told that that ship has sailed a little bit. I think that they've kind of sensed a negative reaction to that amongst the United fans, and also Southgate doesn't want to leave before the end of the Euro, so time-wise it doesn't work. There are lots of managers and coaches out there. You know, Thomas Tuchel's available. Now, people will say that Tuchel is, you know, he falls out with owners, he falls out with technical directors. So what? Man United needs somebody who will challenge them, who will make them better, who will walk in that dressing room and command the respect of the players. It's obvious right now that Erik ten Hag doesn't command the respect of the players. Those that are on the pitch and those that are in the treatment room that have, you know, been there for quite a while and not too keen to get off the treatment table, there's no respect for ten Hag. You can see it. You can see it in the way that they play. You can see it in the sense that if he's got a tactical plan, they're not fulfilling it. And if he has got a tactical plan that he's trying to get across, they don't trust it. So the players don't believe in Ten Hag. The fans increasingly don't believe in Ten Hag. So there's no reason for Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe to keep Ten Hag at the club beyond the fact that it will cost around £7 million to sack him, because now that United haven't qualified for the Champions League, his contract next year drops by 25%. So his £9 million a year wages dropped to below £7 million. So getting rid of him isn't going to be that expensive. But despite the fact it will cost money, keeping him at the club now when it's so obviously failing will cost even more in the long run, because you're just backing the mistake for another year. So there will be coaches out there. There are plenty of coaches out there that will do a better job. Tuchel for me is top of the list, but Roberto De Zerbi, as abrasive as he is at Brighton, would get more out of these players than out of Ten Hag. Plenty of coaches in Europe. You know, Sebastian Hoeneß at Stuttgart has had a great season. He'd be better than Ten Hag. So there are plenty of coaches out there. They've got to take a chance and find somebody, because under Ten Hag, they're going nowhere.
It's interesting, Thomas Tuchel, because you look at it and on paper, obviously he'll be free at the end of the season with Bayern Munich. You're going to think, wow, you know, this seems to make sense, even though he's going to rattle some cages. If you're Thomas Tuchel, do you even want this? Do you want this challenge? Do you want to be taking over a team that's got all these problems?
I mean, at some point, I think Thomas Tuchel would want to make sure that his reputation as a manager is strengthened by what he has achieved in the past and not weakened by what has happened at Bayern Munich. Now, potentially Bayern Munich could still win Champions League, right? So maybe what we consider to be a failure at Bayern Munich ends up being a triumph as he walks out the door. And if that's the case, there's no need for him to take over this mess, because people keep talking about the name of Manchester United, the power of the brand of Manchester United. Well, that's a damaged name and a damaged brand at this point, certainly on the field. And it's not a project. It's not a one-year project. It's not a one transfer market project. This is a project that takes over the whole organization. It's not just on the field. It's everything that leads to success to on the field needs to be changed and make sure that they're working for a common goal, and that there is a plan in place and an identity as to what they want to be and how they're going to get to that point. And beyond all of that, once you figure all of that, then you have to say, well, who's the manager who's willing to take on this mess too? So to your point, you have to take. I don't think Manchester United is going to get a choice of the manager that they would want. They're going to get the choice of a manager who's up and coming, who looks at this as this sort of big stepping point in their career, as a sort of the crowning achievement of where they have been. Now I'm up and coming. This is a great opportunity that I cannot pass up. Thomas Tuchel is beyond that.
Jules, what do you think?
I agree with both what Oggy and Ali just said. I mean, last week there was a few sort of news coming out here in England saying that Radcliffe and Braceford didn't really think there was somebody better than Ten Hag, and that's why they might keep him. I mean, surely tonight, after what we saw, they've realised that there are a lot of people better than him and that he's got no control, there's just no direction, there's just nothing there, really, it's empty. And we've said that all season, it's really empty. There's nothing. Yeah, of course, he's had a lot of injuries and he can find that excuse all he wants, but this is empty. So he needs to go. And then I think Tuchel is a good shot. I agree with Oggy. There's a lot of managers. Ruben Amorim has done an amazing job at Sporting. You can give him a chance. There's a lot of people you can get a chance that are better than Ten Hag, who are more structured, with a better philosophy, with a better style, with better charisma, by the way, and with more leadership as well. Because we can talk about the football, and okay, maybe he has great ideas, he just can't implement them to the squad. But what about the leadership? What about his own charisma? What about his communication that has been terrible all season? It's not just on the pitch and the result and the fact that they're eighth, because they can still win a title, by the way. Let's not forget they're in the FA Cup final somehow. But it's all the rest as well, everything. He's just not a Manchester United manager, full stop. There's just nothing in him that has earned him the right to be a Manchester United manager, even a club in decline like they are right now. So for me, it's goodbye and get someone in that will have the leadership, will have the qualities, the charisma, that kind of personality to be able to steady the ship first and then take it again in the right direction.
Mario, come out. Come on, defend your fellow countrymen.
No. Look. Okay, I don't agree. You understand when Jill said like all the Dutch people, because it doesn't work like that. But away from that, you understand. He may be a Dutch guy, you understand. And I don't agree of the work that he does, of course. But I said already last time. I said I think he misjudged the movement when he came to England. I think, you know, like Ali said, like the club, you understand, Man United, when I came to England, to understand what this club means, it is bigger than we think it is. And I think that's where he got it wrong. You know, he had it wrong all the way. And hearing you guys talk, I think the key thing, what was as a coach, what you always should be careful of, is being in control of your team. And I think now it's coming the moment that you never want, like, I give an example. Let's say the coach walks into, right? Ferguson, he walks into the corridor. Everybody's quiet in the dressing room. That is a leader because you don't want to talk. I don't think he has that. I don't think he has the moment, you understand? People walk, you know, the coach is coming, everybody's quiet. That feeling you need as a manager. Chelsea went through the same thing. We talked about this, we highlighted it, you know, when Pochettino came. It's the same thing we always ask. You need a leader that can handle a club like that and can handle the situation they're in. Even if someone comes, and we talked about Tuchel, don't forget, Tuchel maybe had moments when he were at other clubs, but when you're a competitor and you've been gone out of a team like Chelsea, you left them at a moment when you didn't want to leave them, you brought them trophies, was a lot of turmoil going on, and you had to leave. I don't think if this moment will come across Man United, I don't think Tuchel will, okay, he might well think like, ooh, should I do it? But I think he will. Because it's still uncompetitive. Every player is like that. You hurt him on one way, he might take the job.
Looking at it overall, though, Mark, you look at the fact that Ten Hag had money in his pocket, you felt, going into the season, leading into the Carabao Cup, obviously the FA Cup final as well, Champions League. For you, which points, where did we go from there to this stage today?
I think it all went wrong after they won the Carabao Cup last season. If you look at the way the results went, until the Carabao Cup final last season, they'd won about 70% of his games. After that, it fell off a cliff. The game immediately after that was a 7-0 defeat at Liverpool, and they haven't recovered since. And I think that defeat, it exposed the weaknesses of Ten Hag's tactics. His teams can't defend. I think teams have worked it out. And, you know, as Jules said before, that they're so poorly coached. They are poorly coached because time and time again, you've seen the same problems where they're getting hit on the counter-attack. There's nobody midfield. It's basically 5 against 3 or 2 every week. They're conceding 20, 30 shots a game because he hasn't been able to coach his players to defend. So the problem with the Premier League is it's very good and it's very competitive. And even if you're a good coach, there are 19 other top coaches who can work you out pretty quickly. Now, that's happened with Ten Hag, and he hasn't found a way around that to beat teams. Yes, he's had injuries, and I hear that, the injury situation all the time. But, you know, there are suggestions that he's trained his players too hard in the summer and they've not been able to come back from it. The pre-season was too heavy, was too hard. Players are getting injuries. Casemiro's never had a muscle strain until this season. So are the injuries down to Ten Hag, or are they down to just bad luck? Basically, he's been found out in this big league. He's been the best team in Holland. With all due respect to Mario, it's not the strongest league anymore. He's bullied that league. He's found out that Ajax beat a lot of teams in the Dutch league. Easy street. He's come to the Premier League, and it's much harder. There's better coaches, there's better teams, and he's not been able to work it out. So we're now seeing that Erik ten Hag is out of his depth at Man United, and I think there's nothing that can change that. There's nothing that can solve that. He's just not good enough to compete at that level. We've seen that every week in the way his teams play, especially away from home. And
I'm just looking at it from the perspective of the Manchester United players. When he's gone delusional with his comments to the press.
That affects that.
Well, I just think that if you're a player and you know the realities of your locker room and you know the realities of what's happening on the training field and then on the game field, and you're living through it, and you're listening to his speech, and you're listening to the coaching that is going on, or lack thereof, that is going on the training facility, and you're seeing it on a day-to-day basis, and then you go and hear what he has to say to the media, and in the manner in which he tries to explain who they are and why they are the way they are, and his explanations just don't match reality. And as a player, once you lose belief that that guy knows what he's talking about, the moment he walks in that locker room, he's no longer respected. And if you don't respect the manager, I don't care under what scenario, you're not going to play for him. You're not going to put yourself out there for him. Now, that you can question the players all you want and their professionalism. But if the leader of the team, the manager, comes across as delusional, as losing it, as a guy who doesn't know what he's talking about and doesn't have the solutions to the problems, guess what? The players are going to sit back and say, yep, go on. We are not jumping on this boat with you. You can drown yourself.
We know, Jules, it's inevitable. Some pundits, certainly not on this show, will be saying, well, whoever comes in, they need to come out and they need to have a good clear out at Manchester United. The problem is, when you take a look at who they want to clear out, no one's going to take them, not at these sort of prices. You take a look at the size of some of these contracts, it's extraordinary.
Yeah, it is. So the wages, the transfer fee, obviously, and not backed by the performance. That's the thing. If you have a player that you want to get rid of who's had a good season, but you just want to get rid of because he's over the age of 28, for example, or you want someone young, I don't know, there's a lot of reasons. It's easier to sell. If you try to sell a player that has been in shocking form like this United team pretty much all season, good luck, for Jason Wilcox and Dan Ashworth and all those people who are going to try to sell players this summer before buying, then it will be difficult. They want Branthwaite from Everton. Great. They're trying to swap Maguire and some money for Branthwaite. This is not Monopoly. We're not playing Monopoly here. This is not a game. This is a serious thing. This is a serious business. You can't just do things, hey, we love your young, really promising centre forward, and we've got this old guy that we tried to get rid of for the last 2 years, who's earning a fortune, by the way, Everton. Why don't you want Harry Maguire, please? It's just like, what is this? So I can't wait for the summer. And Augie is going to be at the heart of it, and I think it's going to be fascinating to see him reporting it and what they're trying to do. And to be fair, I feel for United fans, because today, imagine them travelling from wherever they were coming from all around the country to see this mess at Palace. And if they just think about what the summer could look like, it's scary for them. So I feel a little bit for them, but it's going to be a circus again, there's no doubt.
How does your summer look then, Mark?
Well, it's going to be the same again. Now, the situation with Man United is, and Jules is right, they've got a lot of players on big money and big contracts, but the real kind of catch here is that nobody in the game has got any money. So the clubs that have got money, Real Madrid, well, they're going to spend it all on Mbappe's wages and his signing-on fee. Man City have got money to spend, but they'll spend it on good players. Then you look at teams like Brighton, Brentford, other clubs in the Premier League that are well managed. They're not going to want to take Man United's cast off. So they've got a lot of players who, especially those with a year left on the contract, who they just can't get rid of them. So they've got a lot of players they want to get rid of, but there's nobody out there to take them. So it's a perfect storm for Man United. They really can't move forward. I don't think they can actually move forward properly until the summer of 2025. And that's really bad news for anyone that's listening as a Man United fan. But the way the market is this summer and the way that their squad is structured in terms of the contracts left, they're going to find it really difficult to get players out, which means it's going to be difficult to get players in. And it is a catch-22 because the manager's not good enough, but the vast majority of the players aren't good enough. The players that played tonight and that have played for much of this season, they're not Man United quality, they're not Man United level. But what is happening now is just the culmination of 10 years of terrible recruitment. You've got people like Diogo Dalot, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who are just not good enough for Man United, but they've been there forever, and they're still there. And you've got people like Victor Lindelof, who's not playing at the moment. Again, he's been there forever. So you've got all these players that have gradually, over the years, dragged down Man United's level to the point where they're 8th in the Premier League. And you have to say, of the 7 teams above them right now, how many of those teams will take Man United players right now? I can't think of any. Maybe Bruno Fernandes, maybe Marcus Rashford if he's any good on a good day. But the 7 clubs above Man United wouldn't touch those Man United players. They are where they should be, and that is the indictment of Man United right now.
Just one last thing on all of this, and I feel we've got to do due diligence. Mario, Crystal Palace were brilliant.
The guys up front, Olise, Eze, Mateta, those are guys, they know each other, they know how to play. In the middle of the park, they just keep it defensively. They were incredible. But also the energy levels, I think that's very important. So I think they played against a team that had so many new managers, so many players coming in, that they are struggling to make a team out of it. And Crystal Palace was ready for Man United. They were ready for it.
Could they do like a Villa next season, Jules?
You do wonder had Glasner arrived in July, for example, instead of Hodgson to start the season, if Eze and Olise had been fit the whole season. Because actually, I looked it up the other day, the three that Mario just mentioned, Eze, Olise, Mateta, have only started 20% of their game in the Premier League this season. And this coincides with this great run that they're having at the moment, where they're destroying teams at home, especially away. It's a bit more difficult at times. But I like his back three. I like Wharton, especially, has been a great signing for them. He was really good in the Championship, but the the step up from the Championship to the Premier League is not easy at all, even when you're a young player, especially maybe when you're a young player. And he's done so well. So yeah, I think next season, maybe not to the level of Villa just yet, because top 4 straight away from 14 they are right now is not easy. But certainly a top 10 finish, I think, and to continue that progression would be very interesting.
Mark, what new will you have in your article? I imagine it will drop tomorrow, saying new low for Manchester United, and everyone says that you hate them.
Well, I mean, I don't hate Man United, but they obviously keep me in a job because it's the gift that it's the gift that keeps on giving. So let's see what tomorrow brings, but it probably won't be very good.
Mark, thank you very much. As Jules rightly mentioned, they could still end the season with the FA Cup. They take on Manchester City. That game live from Wembley on ESPN+. Exclusive coverage will start at 9 a.m. Eastern.